Hey guys, welcome to my inaugural YouTube video. For this video, I wanted to show you guys something very near and dear to my heart, and I'll show you why. This is my REEB Cycles Destroyer DJ Carbon Belt-Driven bike. Now, I've had this bike for 5 years. 5 years on one dirt jump frame, and there's a reason for that. And you're probably wondering, why should I trust this other random dude on the internet who has an opinion? Well, you probably shouldn't, but I'm gonna give you guys some info on why this is the best dirt jump bike in the world, in my opinion. I'm gonna go into a little bit of detail on kind of my history, all the frames that I've been through, and I want to let you guys know all the background of why this bike has been the one that I've kept for so long. If you don't wanna watch that, I'm gonna give you guys a time code to skip to, up here maybe. Go ahead and skip right to it. You can just check out my components and see some clips of the riding and some more detail shots. But also, I love that I'm sitting at bar height. I just got these. I'm gonna give you guys a quick background on who I am and what led me to this specific bike. So, born and raised in Colorado, coincidentally where REEB is from, my hometown, Lyons, Colorado. I started dirt jumping probably age 13, 14, about a decade ago. And I've been through 10 frames in about 10 years. But the reason that's so important is because it was about 9 frames in 5 years. So I kind of went through this cycle of like, I tried out so many different bikes, and the cool thing about dirt jump bikes is like a frame costs 300 bucks. So, and every part is interchangeable, and you can just, maybe you want a comb install one day and you have 300 bucks, you can get a frame and swap everything over and boom, you got a new ride. So that was kind of my mentality when I was younger, is I would just get a new frame when I was feeling frisky, try it out, and if I hated it, I would just sell it. So I grew up racing in the Mountain States Cup, and then as that sort of dissolved was the same time that dirt jumping was kind of on the rise, dirt jumping and slopestyle. And so, you know, I was pretty young at the time, 13, 14, and that's when I sort of made this transition over into the dirt jump world, while simultaneously riding, you know, park and trails and all that jazz. So I have a list of all the frames that I've had because there's no way that I can even remember all of them. It took me a minute to write all of them down. The very first dirt jump bike I ever got, I was like 13, 14 maybe, and it was a GT Ruckus. I got it complete from the local bike shop. It was like brown, rode so sick. It's still actually around today. One of my buddies has it, he still rides it. The thing was like bomb proof. Next I got a Black Market Riot. It was like raw color, it was really sick. And then after the Riot, I had this bike called the Lens Spankster, another local Colorado brand. Pretty sick bike. It was aluminum. It had, I think, 100 or 120 rear travel. I used it for literally everything. It had like a 100 mil Argyle in the front, and I was taking it trail riding and dirt jumping. I was still racing, so it was like on the slalom track. And then we had the Banshee Rampant was up next. That thing was really sick. I kind of wanted a little bit more of a slope style bike, but at the same time I was like, ooh, I want this to be a race bike. So I built it up kind of weird in between. It wasn't really sick for either. Cool bike though, I ended up cracking it. So there's that. For hardtail next, I got a comb install Absolute for like 150 bucks. I had the bike for a little while. It ended up being a little bit too small for me, so I ended up swapping it out for something else. Got the Transition Bank. That is still one of my favorite bikes to this day. I really like the long bikes. I'm like pretty tall, you know, like 5'11" or like 6 foot on my Tinder profile, but this thing has like a pretty long wheelbase too, and I think that's just naturally why I like it, you know, in contrast to the Bank, which was aluminum, but rad bike. I also had an Intense Taser hardtail that I built up for racing. This thing sucked. Don't buy one of these. Then I got on the Deity team and I built up a Crypt Keeper that was like, you know, full Deity build, like black and purple, pretty ridiculous, over the top. I only had that thing for like a month before this part of the story starts. It was like, I think senior year of high school or something, like 2014, 2013. And this company REEB out of Lyons hit me up and they were like, hey, we know you're like planning on doing the Outdoor Games, which is this local dirt jump comp. They're like, we have a 27.5 dirt jump bike, we want you to ride in it, are you interested? And I was like, low-key, I was like, no, I'm like definitely not interested, but I kind of hear about it and I was like, I'd love to check it out, see what I think about the bike, at least give you guys some feedback. I'd heard really good things about REEB in the past, so like naturally I was just kind of like, yeah, that sounds sick, I'll check it out, see what I think. Rode it around. Oh my God, you guys, it was so fun. It was so snappy, but still rolled so fast. I'd never even ridden a 27.5 at this point. You know, they were still kind of on the come up. I still had like a 26-inch trail bike, all that. Ended up just loving it. So rode it in the contest. swapped over all my DD parts, got third, and then immediately was like, okay, we gotta make it 26. They were already kind of thinking about it, so we just gave them the extra little nudge. Then I got the very first production one, was sharing it between them and my brother. That bike was insane. Ended up getting my own. This one right here, 2015, 5 years strong. So this frame is hand built in Lyons, Colorado by one dude. One dude makes every single bike. It's made with American steel, so you know we're not getting any of that crap from overseas. The coolest thing about this is the dropout system. I think it was one of the first dirt jump bikes to do the horizontal and vertical sliding dropouts with the chain tensioner. I haven't moved this thing since I bought this bike. These have held their place so well. Every one of their bikes has one of these sweet head badges. This is like my favorite feature of the bike for sure. So I just wanted to go kind of into the components now and just talk a little bit about the actual bike itself. So naturally we're gonna start with the Gates carbon drive. So this thing can't be put on any bike. It is one solid piece of carbon. You have to actually have a frame split, so this is held together with a bolt. I was super skeptical about both of these things right off the bat. It stressed me out, but 5 years on this belt, 5 years on this frame, the results speak for themselves. Never had a single stretch, slip, any issues with this belt. It has worked flawlessly, and I seriously recommend if you can find a bike that accommodates this setup, make it happen because it is so cool. You will never go back. You don't even have to lube it. If you do, I'm no scientist. I just put water on it and like brush it, and it never squeaks, like never have any issues there. So check it out. So this is kind of a hilarious setup. I've got a 46 tooth on the front here. It's huge, like this is bigger than downhill bikes for sure. The reason for that is you can't run a super tiny cog in the back because of the nature of the belt. So I think it's a 22 I have in the back, which is pretty large, you know, especially for a dirt jump bike where you're usually running like in the 10s. Also, I wanted to get the shortest belt that they made because I wanted to keep my rear wheel as close to the seat tube as possible to keep it as snappy as I could. It is a pretty long bike, like it's got a pretty long wheelbase for a dirt jump bike, but like I said, I'm a pretty large guy. I think if you were probably like 5'6", 5'7", and above, you'd really like this bike. Talk about the fork. This is I think a 2013 Lyric that's lowered to 100 mil. Just put it back on my bike recently after I broke my Argyle. And it's so awesome, it's so beefy. The 100 mil is great. I kind of would even want 80 now that I've got these bars on here, but I think the setup's pretty dialed for now. For wheels, we've got Atom Lab Pimplite rims laced onto Hope Pro 2 Evo hubs. I was just thinking, I'm like, is Atom Lab still even in business? If you can find these rims, get them. Like, I can't vouch for like enough for anything on this bike because it's all just held up so well, and I've just like beat the shit out of it, and it's doing so well. So, Atom Lab Pimplite rims, super strong. Hope Pro 2 Evo hubs. These are so sick for the price point. Like the engagement is pretty dang good for how much they cost. They come in so many different colors, so like you can always get them to like match. And then some of the spokes you can see. These were built by someone who's like never built wheels the first time, so all the spokes are just random colors and like kind of hilarious, but I ended up liking it a lot. So then we've got, for cranks, we've got St. Cranks bottom bracket, and we've got Deity Compound V2 pedals on here. I've always been a huge fan of plastics with metal pins. I just hate metal pedals. I don't know what it is about them. I just like the lightweight features of the plastic pedals. They're just as strong. Like I've never broken a plastic pedal before, and it's pretty sweet that you can replace the pins, so if one breaks or gets shaved down for some reason, you swap it out. These pedals cost like 50, 60 bucks. I definitely recommend running plastics. So then for the cockpit, we've got the Deity high side 3-inch bars. I just got these. I'm gonna do a video just on these bars because they're so rad. Super tall, super strong. I can feel like I can go way higher on these things now. This is matched with the Deity cavity stem. I actually flipped it upside down in comparison to my last setup. I had the stem slammed with my Cam Zinc 1.5-inch bars and flipped the other way, so I had a little bit more rise. But since I got these taller bars, I wanted to kind of bring it down just a tiny bit because it was a little overkill. That's the cool thing about the cavity stem though, is like it's offset a little bit from the mounting point, so you can run it right side up or upside down. I don't know which is which or what's standard, but pretty sweet, so you can totally customize it to your liking. We've got the LeConte grips on here, Sensus, nice and long, super good for, you know, if you're riding gloveless. We've got an XT brake, uncut for the one time that I did a bar spin. So we've got the Errant I-beam DJ saddle here. Definitely get your hands on one of these if you can. They're super sick, just fabric, you know, nice and simple. I love the I-beam setup, honestly. Like, I hate standard pivotal with a bolt in the middle. It's so annoying. So for tires, I've got the Maxxis GTHs. I run these bad boys at like 60 PSI all the time. They are literally basketballs. But surprisingly, like, they've held up so well. I do skids everywhere, like every chance I get on pavement. I'll go for distance and like see if I can go super far skidding. I don't know how these are still working. Like, I land sideways all the time and like haven't torn sidewalls or anything. So been super impressed with the traction at 60 PSI too. They feel awesome. And then we've got a Cane Creek headset, which is awesome. You know, I think having a really good headset on a dirt jump bike is pretty crucial because that takes, you know, a lot of the brute force up here. So that about does it, guys. That's my REEB Cycles Destroyer dirt jump bike, carbon belt driven, 5 years running strong. This thing is killing it. I love this bike. I don't even know if I'm gonna replace it soon. I might try out a V2 at some point, but for the time being, I'm just so in love with this bike. So go ahead, you know what it is, like and subscribe. I'm gonna do more videos. If you have like random stuff you want me to do a video on, like whatever, stems, pedals, tires, anything, leave me a comment. I'm always looking for new ideas for the bikes. Thanks for watching, guys.